Welcome to Focus TV for our community today.
This is Issues and Views, Western New York's public affairs program focusing on topics and issues affecting you and your community. The opinions and views expressed on this program are not necessarily the opinions or views of Town Square Media or its employees. Here's your Issues and Views host, Joe Chili.
This morning I'm pleased to be speaking with Gwendolyn Bork, who's the president of Focus, which is For Our Community, Unity and Support Incorporated. Gwendolyn, good morning. Welcome to Issues and Views.
Good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Let's begin with telling us what Focus, we told you what it means, but what's it all about?
Focus is the Lancaster Depew Addiction Prevention Coalition.
And what do you do?
Sure. So we have really two main goals, and that's to reduce youth substance use and to create community collaboration by partnering really with 12 sectors of the community, ranging from businesses, healthcare, education, government, law enforcement, parents, and of course, youth, to create one unified voice. We are we use evidence-based, data-driven addiction prevention science, which my partner and program director, John Brusso, and I have been highly educated as addiction prevention specialists in order to achieve these goals. So we're here to change the environment. If you change the environment, you can change the perception. If you change the perception, you change the person. We do this through a federally approved model called the Strategic Prevention Framework. Uses a range of environmental strategies really to support, empower, and equip our youth as the next leaders of not only this organization, but places of power all over the world.
It's a pretty lofty notion, and goal. Give me an idea of the demographics. What kind of age group of youth are you trying to focus on?
Right. So, we do serve the entire community and their businesses and families, but, as you mentioned, our main audience are the teens in Lancaster Depew, ages 13 to 18. It's their voice that needs to be heard. It's their environment. It's their purpose that needs to be validated and protected. So those teens, those youth, I would say ages, the grades 8th through 12th grade, those are the ones we're trying to reach and work with.
Boy, it sounds really young to me. I'm surprised to a certain degree that kids of that age are having an issue.
Well, we've collected a lot of data, and this happens across America, and we'll kind of get into the parameters that we use and we follow. But kids are using and drugs and substances way younger in life than ever before. So, there's organizations that are even starting the prevention message in elementary school because of just the effect of social media and technology on our kids. They're growing up with, a computer in their hands that is accessible to anything and everything.
Let's take one step back now. We've talked about your mission, who you are, what you do. What drove you to begin something like this and eventually become president of Focus?
Sure. So, although, I'm an independent financial advisor, so like by day I build my book with other amazing advisors at the Legend Group, this is really my passion, my purpose for existence. I had a rough childhood, was raised by a single father, moved around a lot, experienced many things that our kids really go through in this life. I left home when I was 15, and after a couple of years of being on the streets, I was so lost, and I consumed drugs and alcohol. I almost died in a car accident at the age of 18 after I dropped out of high school in my senior year. So when I should have been graduating in June of that year, I was in the hospital, holding on to my life for over a month. That day I died, and I met God. He told me I had to come back. That I had a mission, and this is it. It's to help our youth find their voice, find their peace without drugs and alcohol, and get ready to take over this world, because I think you and I can agree, we need them.
So this is do as I do, not do as I say, which I think probably means a lot more to kids and to the people that you're dealing with because you've been there, right?
I have. I can relate. I can relate to poverty. I can relate to, domestic violence and sexual abuse and rape and, alcoholism and drug abuse and, racism, like you name it. I've experienced it, so yeah, I know I know the causes, some things that our trauma can lead us down the roads the destructive paths that we can go on. And, I was lucky to survive that day. And so I'm on borrowed time, my friend. Our kids are important and we need them.
Gwendolyn, this is, when you start talking about what you went through, I'm sure it was a very dark time. When people get out of that time, I would imagine that they really don't want to go back. They're like, I escaped this, I did better, I made a life for myself, I'm good, everything's great, I don't want to think about those times. But you're basically going right back into it again. What drove you to do that?
So it took some soul searching, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, after that car accident, I went through really dark times. My whole life changed. I lost my independence. I lost my body's changed forever, so I lost a lot of things. I lost all the people that I thought were my friends, and I had to go through this process of discovering my identity and my purpose. And it took time for me to get to this place. I'm 41 years old. The accident happened when I was 18. The first thing I did is I published a book called Walking the Fine Line. It was like 10 years, the hardest times of my life, ages 14 to 24. I'm like, I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to let people know my life, and maybe that'll help other people. And then after that, I dove into music. Music was my coping mechanism out of that dark period. And I'm like, no, I need to be a recording artist. I'm going to be a singer, and I'm going to spread a message. And actually had multiple offers come in, like Capitol Records at 21, EMI out of Nashville at 24, and then Sony Records later on. And when I was 24, I was going to sign the contract with Sony, and my son, my firstborn, was born. He was 3 months old, and his dad died in a car accident. Yeah. So I canceled my contract, and I stayed here, and I just did independent. I published a record independently under the Red Revolution. So it's like, all right, I did that, and that didn't seem like enough. So then I moved into, co-founded a non-for-profit for addiction recovery with a good friend of mine, Dr. Donna Potter, called IHNO, IHNO, and we serve the addiction recovery community. And then this opportunity came up, and they needed help, and so I went full speed into it. I had the ability to, became president, and we basically launched this organization overnight, and we've become really successful in a very short period of time. Working with youth is hands down the most important thing in my life. I have 2 teenage boys now. I know what they go through. This world is a rough place right now, and our kids, they need leadership, and they're our future. So they're our now. We need them.
I want to get into how you're funded in just a moment, but I want to ask you a question that may be hard to answer. But when you go through time like that, and you recover, and you pull yourself out of it, how do you keep from relapsing when some of the same issues arrive again?
Yeah, so thank God I never really, I was never an addict of any particular type of drugs. I just experimented, and never became an addict or someone who abused, like heroin or the things that are really hard to get off of, that changes your brain chemistry for years. So for me, it was just soul searching. It was music. I just started recording music, and I dove headfirst into recording albums and playing out. I still play music out on stage. So music is my outlet. Mm-hmm. But I had to change everything. I had to walk away from a lot of people that expected me to be somebody else. I was no longer this. I had to basically change who I was. And I couldn't hang out with the same people. I couldn't hang out in the same places. I had to walk away from something that was very destructive. I had to forgive a lot of people. I had to do a lot of healing. And, obviously a lot of that was my faith. You don't just meet God and then, come back to life and pretend it didn't happen. It was a very rough period of time in my life where I had nothing else but my faith, my music, and rebuilding.
I've got to give you a lot of credit, because some people music becomes the introduction to some of the things that you were trying to escape. I mean, you talk about the Whitney Houstons, people that had unbelievable voices and talent and the ability to really move on. But again, as you say, you can get involved with people that maybe don't foster that same belief that you do, and that look at other ways to try to gain excitement or gain acceptance or compensate. And I guess this is part of the problem. Let's talk a little bit about how you're funded. Now, we've just gone through COVID, and I know so many nonprofits just automatically slammed on the brakes last year. I mean, the county money dried up, city money dried up. I mean, they just didn't have it. We had everything we could do just to survive. So how did Focus survive COVID?
Sure. So we were very lucky and blessed in December 2019 to be awarded the Drug-Free Communities grant through the White House Office of Drug Control Policy. It's a 5-year grant, and that kicked off in January of 2020. So, thank God we had that. So we were able to still, pay for our rent, for our office, and we had a lot of training that was part of our grant that we had to go through. We were supposed to be in Charlotte for this academy, Addiction Prevention Academy. We did 1 week, and things got shut down, and we had to go virtual and be educated that way. But you're right. We had an action plan, like a business plan for that year, and it all changed. Our access to the youth changed. Our programs had to change. A lot of it was in person, as you can imagine. So, and you're right. Like, county money dried up, a lot of state money dried up. And the main impetus, I think, behind our success has always been our community partners and individuals that believe in us and support us. So, like, our community came around us, and we came around our community, and we were helping raise money for the people in poverty in Depew through Tri-Community Food Pantry. And there was a lot. We all came together and helped each other out. But yeah, as you can imagine, we had to pivot 100%. So one day, schools are shut down. How are we going to get behind these kids and get them through this safely and effectively? And so really at that point, it was like, all right, I'm going online, and I'm gonna create a podcast. I'm gonna start interviewing people that have important things to say to our parents and youth. I'm gonna equip these parents and these families, and we're gonna make this happen. And so overnight, I started a podcast called Focus TV on YouTube, and I started interviewing like the superintendent of Depew, the director of special education at Lancaster High School, our school resource officers through Lancaster Police and Depew Police, trying to see what's happening with them on the ground level, and healthcare. I interviewed people from Spectrum Health, mental health counselors, signs of suicide, depression, the addiction, or not addiction, the association of, suicide prevention. Mm-hmm. I interviewed her. Like, what are signs of major crisis, mental health crisis for our students? And it was to the point where, the reports that we were gathering, it was critical. It was about 14 students a month were attempting suicide. So the mental health crisis through COVID, that was more of a crisis than COVID really for these kids. And it still is. They've developed now, unfortunately, destructive behaviors and coping mechanisms that they're going to have to figure out now as the aftermath of this as it continues.
You brought up something which is interesting. When you were growing up, you said you got in with the wrong people, which is something that people often do. But one of the effects of COVID was that kids were home and didn't have social interaction. In not having social interaction, that social interaction is a double-edged sword, because it can be bad, but it also helps you to grow, right?
Oh, 100%. True. And that's just it. You have the introverts that love their isolation, and then you have, the social butterflies that need that. And the kids really in the age demographic that we're targeting, these are kids that are going through, this period of adolescence where the next step of their formation is their identity with their peers. So you're right. Okay, so they had one set of friends in school. Well, now school shut down. Okay, well, now you're in the summer. Now you have to you lost contact with those friends. Well, we're in the middle of an epidemic, so who are you going to hang out with? That's safe,
Yeah.
Okay. And then, okay, well, now we're going to start your next year, and you lost track with those friends. So now you got to find new friends, but the cohort split in half. So maybe your friends that were, their last name was M through Z, well, you're not going to see them this entire year now because your last name starts with B. So you're going to have to make friends now with these friends. These kids socially have been through the ringer, and at the time in their life where they need that peer-to-peer interaction, you're right. How are they going to do that? How are they going to form new relationships with such a chaotic social environment? Schools protect our kids. They do. And they, like you said, some of them went down the wrong road and found kids because they were accessible that have now created destructive behaviors that, like I said, they're going to have to undo. And some of them, maybe they found friends and family that were there to support them in their new relationships that will protect them. But it's double-edged. It's 50-50 on that one, Joe.
Yeah, because you have to look at the fact that I try to focus on some of the positive things that happened as a result of COVID too. I mean, I think some of the things is families got to get closer. And again, that's double-edged because some families didn't. Some families just said, I don't like the fact I'm here too much. I'm too much of any one thing isn't good, right? But then the other thing is that parents got to realize what teachers did, what teachers do every day. And, there may be some parents that say, well, my kid didn't turn out right because of the influence in school. Well, you know what? It really starts at home. I mean, that's where the foundation is, right? So, I've got to, I have to think that, and plus everybody is switching now from social interaction to social media. And social media, again, is a double-edged sword. Depending on, people every day will say, hey, I saw it on the internet, so it's got to be true. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we're all not that naive. But let me ask you this. When we're talking, once again, this morning to Gwendolyn Bork, who's the president of Focus. And Focus stands for Our Community, Unity, and Support. Focus started in 2018. You said you started it. And you had a government grant. We get that. We understand. So if you look... And then we hit COVID. If you look at Focus, say in 2019, a year in, and then 2020 came around, how do you think the foundation is? Focus stronger after COVID, or do you feel that you've kind of floundered a bit and you have to reset?
No, we are 100% stronger. As you can probably tell, I'm a very determined person, and I will not let anything stand in my way into the goals that we have on our plate. And a lot of faith goes a long way, but we accomplished all the goals that we really needed to during 2020, and we did that through our community partners and support. We launched that foundation to be able to have sustainability long term, long after this grant is over. So I think it strengthened that. It strengthened us. It strengthened our position in the community as a resource, and knowing that our youth were, people were seeing what our youth were going through. I mean, if anything, it just validated our position within our community.
Okay, Gwendolyn, let's talk about some of the pluses and minuses. Let's talk about some of the accomplishments and then what some of your concerns are right now.
Sure. So I would definitely say our accomplishments have really been our ability to create long-lasting relationships with our community, and those are businesses ranging from, I got people on my board. I have an attorney from Goldberg Segala. I have the manager of Bank on Buffalo in Lancaster, the owner of Chick-fil-A, in Lancaster, like Tops Friendly Markets, huge supporter. We have major corporate support and talent and resources. So aside from that, like I said, we were able to still achieve our goals. We just had to do them really more electronically than face to face. So I utilized technology. We were setting up a lot of virtual meetings to be able to accomplish the key informant interviews we had to do, the focus groups we had to do to collect the data to help us be more effective in our environmental strategies. So, we applied for an award actually through it's through CADCA, it's called, but the Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America. They work with all the department heads in the government, like the National Institute of Health and so on. But we actually, out of hundreds of coalitions, we were runner-up for the Chairman's Award. So we came in second place for the most prestigious award in America for what we do. So that's, I would say,
quite an accomplishment. Yes. That's very good. Congratulations.
Thank you. And then just this past spring, we received proclamations and honors all the way from Congress. So Congressman Jacobs, Senator Gallivan, all the way down to our local government leaders for what we have done, what we are doing, and for thinking of the future and creating that foundation. So that money will always come back to our youth for years and generations to come. And aside from that, like actually just most recently, as an advisor, I was nominated for an award for, advisors who give back to the community. So I received an honorable mention in the Catalyst Awards with this organization called Invest in Others. So I'll be presented with this honor in Boston, and our organization will receive a check for $2,500 to focus. So, I mean, we're crushing it. We will continue to support our kids, work around, this current epidemic, be not only following our action items to achieve our goals this year, but we've added more on just to be that resource that our youth need and our parents need under the stress that they're all under right now. It's go time,
Right. Now, some of your concerns, I mean, we've got about 7 minutes left here, but some of your concerns, I mean, we hear all the time, Narcan, where, police officers aren't given EpiPens, but they have Narcan and they're administering, administering it every day, multiple times a day, whatever. So tell us, what are the big issues in Buffalo or in the areas that you're serving?
Sure. So our grants, when we surveyed all of our students in order to get our baseline data for the most used substances that our grant would focus on, it's marijuana and alcohol. And I think you would probably agree that really hasn't changed, since we were all kids,
right.
But the issue that is happening is vaping. Since the creation of vapes, kids and students can modify their vape pens, and now they're smoking THC out of the vape pens. Now they're mixing THC with other things. They're smoking synthetic marijuana, and there's no real way to gauge what's inside these devices when someone uses it. So if that's ever mixed with anything, and even synthetic marijuana puts kids in the hospital, I would say since the creation of electronic vaping devices, it's a whole new game for what can be put inside there for kids to smoke. They're highly addictive as far as the vape cartridges, like 3 times the amount of nicotine. I don't think they realize that. There's a lot of things that happen to the lungs, inflammation of the lungs that could put kids in a self-induced coma. They have to put them in a self-induced coma, sometimes just to heal the inflammation. So I would say that. I would say they're mixing fentanyl with every drug that you could possibly imagine. They've mixed it with marijuana. They're mixing it with cocaine, methamphetamines. And fentanyl is a very, very potent synthetic, we'll call it like synthetic heroin. So that's it. That in itself is scary because, like one little grain of rice, can put you into like a cardiac arrest. I mean, that's why a lot of these officers sometimes even, they have to wear gloves. They have to be careful because if they inhale it or they touch some of this, it gets on their skin. It instantly affects them. So, and we've already found, there's already been fentanyl mixed with, batches of things in upstate New York. A friend of mine, his friend just, did some sort of drug. Fentanyl was mixed in it. The guy overdosed and died. So, it's not the world that we used to live in where kids could just, let's just, you can experiment and you're going to be fine and they're going to make it out. No, marijuana is like 30 times more potent. It's being mixed with everything. Alcohol is 30 times more potent. It's accessible. They're selling malt liquor, fireballs and malt liquor, like Southern Comforts now, right at the right at the grocery stores, right at the counters at the checkout. Like, it's so accessible, and social media in itself is an avenue for these kids to be able to buy and sell. Mm-hmm. That we've done data gathering and like I said, focus groups and reports, and we know kids are buying drugs and alcohol through Snapchat and social media. They're able to mask a lot of this stuff right in plain sight in schools, and it's that's my greatest concern is mental health wise. These kids are going through a crisis, and they're going to have after effects of this epidemic for years to come. Mm-hmm. And the coping mechanisms that typically most kids have ever done, it's not this. It's horrible. It's way more dangerous than it was when we were kids.
All right, we've got about 3.5 minutes left. You've got some upcoming events. Glow Fest, you've got a TikTok content event. Tell us a little bit about these, and then we want to get into how people can get involved themselves.
Sure. So basically every year we do an annual drug-free event for the teens. Last year we called it GlowVid-19. The kids came up with that. This year it's basically an outdoor festival at Como Park. We got a basketball tournament by the Boys and Girls Club. We have a DJ, photo booth, free Chick-fil-A, you name it. So it's basically a glow party. That's we're going to draw our kids out, free event T-shirts to everyone, free food, and it's an opportunity for kids to have fun without obviously using drugs, right? So that's our big event. It's Friday, August 27th at Como Park. You can register online at our website, and on that day we're going to give away $1,000 for the statewide TikTok talent contest that we launched, where all the kids got to do is go to the website, enter their video that doesn't have any drugs or any bad words. Basically you can send a video, your TikTok video of a dog. The most likes equals votes, and the most votes wins $1,000 that day. So we're just stoked to find the kids where they're at on their phones, social media, get them out and having a good time on August 27th at Como Park.
You have a lot of kids dancing to Watermelon Sugar. But the song itself. All right, and how can people get involved? People in the community, if they want to help, if they're listening this morning, you've really driven this point home, and people say, boy, with that kind of passion, I want to get involved. So in the last minute, how do people get involved?
Call me, email me. Go to our website, fill out the contact form, find us on social media. There's so many ways to get involved, from letting people know about our organization through our outreach committee, public policy. We change laws. We amend laws here. So there's public policy. There's tons of different things, fundraising, event committees, advertising, communications. If you're good at marketing, there's so much that goes into who we work with and how we are effective. So call me, email me, but just find me.
All right.
We'll find a place for you with your skills.
Well, give us your website and or a phone number if you want to do that to kind of wrap up here.
Sure. So they can go to our website, forourcommunitytoday.org. So that's our website. Or you can call us at 716-710-9966. So 716-710-9966. But just find focus. We're everywhere. Get a hold of us. Let's do this together.
And your website one more time.
forourcommunitytoday.org.
That's good, because people will be running to get a phone to get a pen the first time you said it. So
sure.
Hopefully we covered that. Gwendolyn Bork, president of Focus. We really appreciate you've been inspiring. You have certainly shown us the enthusiasm that it takes to run an organization of this nature, and we certainly wish you the best in the future. If there's any way we can help, please contact us again.
Thanks, Joe. I so appreciate this time.